This ranking doesn't reflect the review scores on our site, but instead were voted upon by the individuals on the GAMINGbible team. 10. It can't be overstated that Streets of Rage 4 is an experience that won't be as rich, as rewarding, as exciting to younger players as it will be to those who were raised on the Mega Drive. But for anyone with fond memories of this genre at its peak, on home consoles and in arcades throughout the 90s, it's unlikely you'll play a better game of its kind than Streets of Rage 4 in 2020. 9. With Persona 5 Royal, P Studio have managed to take a near-perfect game in Persona 5 and elevated it to another level. It gets in your head like never before thanks to its refined blend of dungeon-crawling RPG action and satisfying high school simulator mechanics. In short, Persona 5 Royal has reached a new height for the series, and arguably for the entire JRPG genre. 8. In every way, Doom Eternal is bigger than its predecessor, more developed, more thought out. On paper, it's a much richer game than the 2016 comeback, but it's one that interrupts you, stopping your flow too often. The first few hours of the game see frequent pauses for tutorial messages and cutscenes, and these interruptions make for a poor introduction, especially considering the last game you dropped into the action immediately and didn't let up until you'd completed the campaign. 7. It's going to be hard for anyone to play through Coffee Talk and not recognise something of themselves, or something about someone they know in its narrative, even with all the spiky ears going on. Coffee Talk isn't a complicated game, but it's a surprisingly deep one to get a little lost in, a single serving at a time. So if you're craving something to sit down quietly and chill out with, and maybe even learn something from, step inside and take a load off. 6. Final Fantasy VII Remake can be enjoyed as a very pretty, albeit extremely linear retelling of a part of an all-time classic. It can be funny, it can be sweet, and it can be exhausting, often all in the same half hour of play, but it's not on a level with what role-playing games have become in the previous 2 console generations. And that's clear whenever you take a moment to consider how little of consequence there is to do outside of the combat and running from A to B down straight shot passages. Although some members consider Persona 5 Royal a better overall game, you can't ignore the pure nostalgic bliss of this remake. 5. I can wholeheartedly recommend Ori and the Will of the Wisps to all of you. Whether or not you've played the original game, picking up this new adventure should be a no-brainer. Moon Studios has gone bigger and better in every conceivable way, crafting an epic, emotional adventure that borrows from some of the best games out there and smartly remixes various genres and ideas in thrilling, unexpected ways. There really is no other way to say it. This was 2020's first must-play title. 4. Resident Evil 3 knows what it is and is unashamed in its delivery of a more Hollywood-style retelling of the Raccoon City incident. While Nemesis undeniably has its flaws and a more open approach to traversal would have been nice with the grander scale, there's still a lot to love about the game, even if it isn't breaking new boundaries like Resident Evil 2 did last year. It's a faithful and thoroughly entertaining retelling of one of the most fondly remembered zombie games ever made. 3. The Last of Us Part 2 is a conflicting experience. It's a game of several fundamental improvements, breathtaking graphics, mechanics that are a joy, outstanding performances across the board, and the sense of a deeper world having been built upon. But there's still the glaringly obvious issue of the story's wonky pacing, and what you actually do to advance it. As a video game sequel, it ticks all the boxes of being bigger and better with more to say, but as a story, as an experience following one of the most critically acclaimed tales ever told in this medium, it sits uncomfortably on a knife's edge, waiting for the passage of time to pull it one way or the other. 2. Warzone brings the fast-paced, addictive gameplay of Modern Warfare's multiplayer to the Battle Royale genre. Introductions of features such as the Gulag and being able to buy your own loadout make Warzone unique in a saturated market. Jump into Verdansk with a group of friends and the hours will fly by. Getting the dub has never felt as satisfying as it is in Warzone. 1. Animal Crossing New Horizons, the first new Animal Crossing in nearly a decade if we don't count spin-offs, is really properly brilliant. It's a charming, rewarding, immensely relaxing game, one whose slower pace offers a welcome alternative to the more intensive AAA releases of the last year or so. It's fair to say 2020 has heaped quite a bit of misery on us, yet into this schoolyard bully of a year steps Animal Crossing New Horizons. It may not be the most action-packed or story-driven title on this list, but it sure shone a bright light in a world that really needed it.